I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Henry Smith.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am grateful to have secured this debate, which allows me to raise the important issue of animal welfare in overseas tourism. I'd like to put on the record that I am proud that the UK has some of the highest animal welfare standards in the world. In this very House, 2 centuries ago, we introduced the Cruel Treatment of Cattle Act 1822, and just last year we introduced the landmark Animal Sentience Act. While the government is to be commended for this, I believe, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we can go further still. I'm sure that honourable and right honourable members like myself often are contacted by constituents on a whole range of animal welfare matters, and I'm grateful to those in Crawley who continue to write to me on such issues. And I speak today as a Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Animal Welfare and also as a patron of the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation. This is, of course, a time of year, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when millions of people around the country start planning their summer holidays, many choosing to escape abroad for a week or two. But let us think about those animals who will never have any escape from the cruel reality that some 500,000 captive wild animals suffer for tourist entertainment around the world. I'd be delighted to give way.
Giving way, supporters of hunting holidays will often cite conservation efforts as a benefit for communities and countries they're hunting in, but as we know, the damage done to animal populations and biodiversity is enormous. Can the honourable member share his thoughts on what ministers could do to tackle misinformation in this space?
Well, I'm grateful for that intervention from the Honourable Lady, who is a steady campaigner for animal welfare issues, and I'm always appreciative of her support. She's absolutely right, and I'll come on to this later on in my remarks, that animal tourism has nothing to do with conservation. Quite the opposite. It actually really presents a danger not only to species being able to survive going forward, but also actually creates human health hazards as well, potentially. And I think as part of an effort to make sure that in this country we don't allow the advertising and sale of animal experiences abroad, we should send a very clear message, as she outlines, that that is unacceptable. Excuse me. Every year, Mr. Deputy Speaker, hundreds of thousands of animals are exploited for entertainment in the global tourism industry. Activities and attractions that are considered wildlife entertainment are those allowing tourists close contact with wild animals to see them perform. Popular examples include tiger cubs made to pose for selfie photographs, elephant rides and swim with dolphin experiences, as well as captive dolphin shows. These activities may, on the face of it, appear to be benign, but in fact they rely on very cruel treatment that harms the captive animals' welfare. Responsible tourism is an increasingly important factor for many travellers, and some tourists have been shocked to see the high level of suffering by wild animals involved in unethical attractions abroad, including Asian elephants, which are sometimes snatched from their forest homes and families as young elephants to supply tourist attractions for nothing more than commercial profit, monetary gain, and the entertainment for the tourist trade. A UK ban on advertising of overseas attractions where Asian elephants and their babies are brutalised for tourism fun is supported deeply and comprehensively across Great Britain. Such would steer demand and therefore supply to ethical venues where elephants and humans are safe from abuse and fatalities. Mr. Deputy Speaker, companies selling wildlife entertainment venues leads tourists to assume that such activities are acceptable when in fact they are inhumane and cause harm to wildlife. There needs to be new legislation banning the promotion of holidays and tours, which includes exploitative animal encounters in their advertisements, and help end the miserable abuse by making such unethical advertising illegal. I'd be happy to give way.
I think it's very good he's brought up such an important issue. I was in Thailand a few years ago, in Chiang Mai, and went to a restaurant that I think was called Tiger Time, and there were full-size, he mentioned tiger cubs, full-size adult tigers with people crawling all over them, having their selfies and so on. And it took a while to realise that, you know, obviously they must have been drugged. Does he agree with me that it's not just about advertising, because this wasn't advertised to me over here, but does the government have a role to play in having words with the Thai authorities to see if they can actually crack down on this sort of activity, because it doesn't send out a good impression of the country at all?
And I'm delighted to be intervened on by the Honourable Lady. She is also somebody who has a long record of standing up for animal welfare issues in this House, and she gives a horrendous example of a first-hand account of the sort of abuse that wild, majestic animals that should be in the wild, experience in countries like Thailand. And again, it is an issue I will come on to expand on a little bit more in my remarks. Mr Deputy Speaker, I wanted to congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Guildford, on her bill to prohibit the sale and advertising of activities abroad which involves low standards of welfare for animals, and I encourage colleagues from across the House to support the Animals Low Welfare Activities Abroad Bill at its second reading on Friday the 3rd of February. Delighted to.
I thank him for giving way, and he's making a fantastic speech, which I'm sure many people across the United Kingdom agree that we must address these very important issues. Would he agree with me that this is very much a cross-party issue? Unlike many of the issues that we may discuss, we can reach out across the political divide and come together with the public, who overwhelmingly support the best animal welfare conditions in the UK and internationally, and that advocates like Lorraine Platt, who leads up the Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation, and others do fantastic work in this space to make sure that it's cross-party and that we all work together to take it forward.
Well, I'm very grateful for that intervention, and that is entirely right. I think with perhaps a few very minority examples, this House is very much united on the need for increased animal welfare protections, both here at home and abroad, and it is right that people in this House, honourable right honourable members in this House, reflect what people across the country are telling us is important to them. Mr Deputy Speaker, my honourable friend, the member for Guildford's bill, the territorial extent of that is Great Britain. And whilst we cannot enforce our laws on other countries, what we can do is prevent British tourists, often unintentionally, buying these cruel animal experiences abroad from companies operating in the UK to stifle demand that causes such grave animal suffering. The government is right to commit and I quote, to continue to raise the bar alongside an intent to take the rest of the world with us, as set out when the action plan for animal welfare was announced. Mr Deputy Speaker, numbers of the Asian elephant, an iconic species beloved across the world, have drastically fallen from millions in the 19th century to barely 40,000 today, and nearly half of those are in brutal captivity. They suffer extreme coercion and cruelty widely across Southeast Asia and beyond, starting with their unlawful poaching from the wild, then brutal breaking of their spirits by isolation and starvation, and then often stabbings and beatings for easy use in tourism, actions that of course would be profoundly unlawful if committed here in the UK. In 2018-19, some 2 million UK tourists visited India and Thailand, and 32% of those visiting Thailand reported having ridden an elephant or wishing to, unwittingly often, of the cruelty and the dangers that involves. In 2016, demand for over 12 million rides was projected in Thailand alone, demonstrating how remorselessly thousands of tourist elephants in Thailand are commercially exploited, often to death. Save the Asian Elephants has so far identified hundreds of companies in the UK market currently promoting such overseas attractions where unethical activities are practiced. Mr. Deputy Speaker, numbers of Asian elephants endangered in tourism in Thailand increased by 70% in the decade to 2020. The Asian elephant has been designated as endangered by the International Union for Convention of Nature for now some 37 years. With the ongoing destruction of majestic Asian elephants comes the end of their unique role as mega gardeners of forests, which maintains biodiversity as the lungs of the earth and strong carbon sinks, so contributing to environmental protection. World Animal Protection's Real Responsible Traveller report shows that some well-known and trusted companies are promoting and selling wildlife entertainment venues. This association with trusted holiday brands leads tourists to assume such activities such as swim with dolphin experiences, taking selfies with tiger cubs and elephant rides are acceptable, or even, as the Honourable Member has pointed out, this misunderstanding that it might even be beneficial for wild animals, when in fact, behind every elephant ride is an abused elephant, and behind every swim with dolphin experience, there is appalling cruelty. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I mentioned Asian elephants a moment ago. The thousands of captive Asian elephants suffer daily and are forced to perform unnatural acts, such as elephant rides and shows for tourists at entertainment venues abroad. And I want to expose the brutality, the training methods elephants are subjected to for the sake of just a 5-minute elephant ride or holiday picture. The cruel methods used to train elephants include repeated beatings with hooks and sticks and being exposed to loud noises and stressful situations. Other methods include separation from their mothers at a young age, around 2 years old, restraint with minimal movement, and isolation. There is strong scientific evidence, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that keeping elephants in captivity for entertainment purposes is both physically and psychologically detrimental to these highly intelligent animals, and it's little wonder that studies have sadly shown the development of symptoms associated with post-traumatic stress disorder. This is before we get to the point of abused captive Asian elephants also being highly dangerous to humans. When provoked, they attack, often fatally. Figures from Save the Asian Elephant show hundreds of tourists and others have been killed and sustained catastrophic injuries, typically crushed chests and internal organs, broken limbs and ribs, and serious head injuries. When physically broken and held in close confinement, elephants, by their large volume of exhalation, can also transmit deadly tuberculosis to humans. Concerns also arise regarding their potential transmission of other airborne pathogens. In the wild, female elephant calves are cared for by their mothers for 4 to 5 years and supervised for several more years. Female calves remain in the mother herd for all of their lives and form close relationships with other family members. Male calves tend to leave the herd between 10 and 15 years of age. By contrast, the enclosures elephants are kept in are inadequate for their needs. The home range of an Asian elephant varies between 30 to 600 square kilometres, an area that obviously can never be replicated in captivity. And therefore I ask honourable and right honourable members to consider if a lifetime of exploitation and suffering is worth the sought-after picture-riding elephant that many tourists don't even know they are supporting. Behind every elephant ride is an abused elephant.
Will he give way?
I will be delighted to give way.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way and congratulate him on securing this important debate and for the incredibly powerful speech he's making. I'm sure that everybody listening to this debate tonight cannot help but be moved by the plight of the animals that he is talking about. Will he join me in congratulating the CEO of Save the Asian Elephant, Duncan McNair, for presenting a petition to Downing Street today, along with other campaigners on this important issue? And does he agree with me that the fact that that petition secured over 1.2 million signatures shows the strength of feeling of people from all over this country as to how important it is to legislate on this issue that we're discussing this evening?
I'm grateful for that intervention. I'm also extremely grateful that my honourable friend is or has introduced a bill to ban these cruel animal experiences abroad, and I wish her every success in the passage of that bill. And I know that she was one of those who presented the petition earlier today to Downing Street, and I think the strength of the numbers of people supporting that petition is a clear demonstration that the British people feel that this sort of practice is outdated and needs to come to an end. Mr. Deputy Speaker, similarly, the captive dolphin entertainment industry thrives on unimaginable cruelty. There are thousands of dolphins in captivity worldwide, subjected to adverse living conditions and forced to perform unnatural tricks in exchange for food. In the wild, dolphins can swim 100 kilometres a day. The average tank size of the largest primary tank used for dolphin facilities is over 200,000 times smaller than their natural home range. Tanks are often barren to allow visitors to have a better view, which results in little mental stimulation for the animals and nowhere for them to hide. No captive facility can, of course, ever meet the complex needs of these highly intelligent animals. This year marks 30 years since the last dolphinarium was closed in the UK, something that we should all be proud to have seen. It's wrong, therefore, that we are effectively exporting animal cruelty that is not acceptable at home to countries abroad. YouGov polling in Britain in May last year found that the acceptability of watching a show or performing involving dolphins was just 23%. An unsurprising yet clear call from a nation of animal lovers to stop fueling the exploitation of wildlife abroad. I was pleased to receive a copy of World Animal Protection's Real Responsible Traveller report earlier this month, which presents an assessment of the 9 of the most influential travel businesses in the UK on the global tourism industry, of their commitment to wildlife-friendly tourism. This research, commissioned by World Animal Protection and undertaken by the University of Surrey, highlights which companies are still failing wildlife by selling exploitative experiences and attractions, or by operating their business without concern for animal welfare. And I pay tribute to the UK Tour Association, ABTA, for publishing an ethical set of standards a decade ago for operators regarding animal experiences abroad, and travel companies play a crucial role in influencing the demand and supply for captive wildlife experiences. However, those companies that are choosing to continue selling captive wild animal entertainment and experiences continue to profit from animal suffering. 84% of people interviewed in a 2022 global poll believe that tour operators should not sell activities that cause wild animal suffering. These companies have an ethical duty to their customers, yet too many choose to put profit before what is right. Also in May last year, almost 3/4, 72% of a YouGov poll respondents stated that they wanted to see government pass more laws designed to improve animal welfare and protect animals from cruelty. Banning the domestic advertising and sale of cruel animal activities abroad has a clear support in the UK. The British people do not want animal cruelty in this country, and nor do they want to support it abroad. I want to praise the ambition of the government's action plan for animal welfare that enjoyed huge public support and committed to legislate on the issue. It intended to set a global standard of how animals should be treated with respect, compassion and free from suffering. And I ask that the Minister does everything possible to follow through on this promise. The landmark Wild Animals in Travelling Circuses Act 2019 prohibited the exhibition or use of wild animals to perform as part of a travelling circus in England. This House has made its feelings clear, Mr Deputy Speaker, once again on this issue and must do again. Wild animals deserve the right to wildlife free from suffering. They are not commodities to be exploited and they are not ours to exploit. In conclusion, Mr Deputy Speaker, I would remind the House of the sentiments set out by the then Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, the Right Honourable Member, the Member for Camborne and Redruth, in May 2021 in the Action Plan for Animal Welfare, and I quote, "The way we treat animals reflects our values and the kind of people we are." Mr Deputy Speaker, I could not agree more. Let this House of Commons support the Animals Low Welfare Activities Abroad Bill and take this opportunity to help tackle the cruel mistreatment of wild animals abroad. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And this is the first time I've had the pleasure of speaking whilst this Deputy Speaker has been in the chair, and I know that he too is very interested in this subject of animal welfare, and I'm particularly grateful to my honourable friend, the Member for Crawley, for securing this debate today, for sharing a copy of his speech as well. And actually we have something in common in that I too was a member of that all-party animal welfare group. I think I co-chaired it, and many of those in this chamber tonight are either have been on that all-party group or are on it now, and that cross-party engagement on this I think is very strong in terms of how we feel about animals and looking after them. I must also thank the Honourable Member from Guildford as well for the work that she is doing in this particular area, and we've heard some very gruelling reports today of the way animals are treated, and I think my honourable friend demonstrated his really sympathetic understanding of in fact how we should be dealing with our fellow wild creatures, and he's absolutely right that the way we treat animals does indeed reflect on our own values, something we should really be bearing in mind. I'd also like to express my gratitude for all the campaign groups and the organisations who have continued to raise the profile of issues such as those that we are debating today. Now, the government recognises that there are a number of tourist activities taking place overseas that do generate animal welfare concerns and which would be illegal here under our own domestic legislation. A 2015 study by Oxford University's Wildlife Conservation Research Unit reported that up to 550,000 animals worldwide suffered because of tourist entertainment in wildlife attractions. We've heard some examples. The tourism industry is a significant contributor to the UK's economy, and some of this economic activity relates to travel agents here, as we've heard this evening, arranging and selling holidays abroad. And as the tourism industry regenerates following the effects of the COVID pandemic, now I would say is the perfect time to start to build tourism that is responsible and sustainable. And as a world leader in animal welfare, the UK government is keen to work towards improving the welfare not only of our domestic animals, but also of animals used in the tourism industry and across the globe. This government already carries out a significant amount of work to protect and improve the welfare of animals domestically and worldwide, and it is determined to do more. This can be seen in our recent support for the hunting trophies, import prohibition private members bill, which we must also thank my honourable friend from Crawley for bringing forward. And I was fortunate to speak in that private members bill on the Friday when that came to the chamber on behalf of the government. And that was the second reading on the 25th of November, and I'm pleased to see that this debate will be in committee tomorrow, I believe. I was also very delighted to speak last Friday in the shark fin bill, which is another private member's bill, which I think is another bill that demonstrates really the attitude we're taking towards worldwide conservation. And I know many others here have contributed towards that subject as well. I just wanted to skim through the so many pieces of legislation that this government has actually very recently brought forward in terms of improving animal welfare. So we've had the Glue Traps Act 2022, the Animal Welfare Sentience Act 2022, the Animal Welfare Sentencing Act 21, the Animal Welfare Service Animals Act, that Wild Animals in Travelling Circuses Act, and the ivory ban actually came into force in June 2022. And I wanted also to really reiterate that a lot of this work has been underpinned by our action plan for animal welfare, which was published back in March 2021. And that set out the direction of travel and really our absolute commitment to this work, both domestically and globally, on animal welfare. Now, the government is aware of problems involving low welfare Asian elephant establishments abroad, referred to in particular by my honourable friend. Asian elephant rides, performances and experiences are often a popular choice amongst tourists overseas. And the campaigning group that has already been referenced tonight, Save the Asian Elephants, claims that out of the 2 million UK tourists who visit India and Thailand between 2018 and 19, a third of them did indeed express interest in having a ride on an elephant, Mr Deputy Speaker. But the Association of British Travel Agents, ABTA, are the main industry body representing travel agents here, and their membership does actually make up about 90% of our industry. It has been referenced already, but they issue guidance to their members on setting out low welfare animal practices abroad that they deem unacceptable for travel companies to be advertising. And their comprehensive list of such activities includes feeding or contact with big cats, which we have heard referenced tonight, feeding great apes, bears, sloths, bear pits, tiger farms, animal fighting, canned and trophy hunting, and many more. It's impossible really to believe that there's such a comprehensive list of all these things. And we have had some graphic descriptions of some of the activities tonight. But although ABTA provides clear guidance on these matters, it doesn't actually have legislative force and applies only to the ABTA members. Now, many studies are now concluding that tourists are becoming more reluctant to support low welfare activities, and there is instead a growing demand for sustainable and ethical attractions, I'm pleased to say. And we are really hopeful that as awareness grows around these issues, that ethical tourism will become more prevalent throughout the industry, and responsible tourism is an ever-increasing term in the travel industry. And we really hope that British travellers will realise this and make the choices for themselves. And although there is some way to go, there certainly does seem to be a shift in many places towards higher welfare attractions. For example, Chang Chil in northern Thailand has become one of the first elephant attractions to transition to an observation-only model, and this venue has become a really popular tourist attraction, demonstrating that there is a demand to learn about elephants, but you don't actually have to be touching them or with them. And to my mind, watching animals behaving naturally in their natural environment has to be the right way to go, whether it's rafting up the river in the Gambia looking at birds, or whether it is whale watching or elephants, whatever it is, and maybe investment in a good pair of binoculars or borrowing them and watching from a distance is the right way to go. So this government is hopeful that the purchasing patterns of tourists in this country will send a very strong global statement that we as a nation will oppose the unacceptable treatment of animals abroad. So I'm just going to conclude now, Mr Deputy Speaker. I think it's all been said by my honourable friend, and I would like to thank him very much again, and all others who have contributed to this debate and who will ensure that as a nation we carry on our great work standing up for animal welfare. So thank you to everybody, and I wish my honourable friend well with his Hunting Trophies Private Members Bill as it progresses.
Questioners at this House to now adjourn.